Okay, we'll start with this. A continuation to a story that I talked about in my previous video, how there seems to be civil unrest, a civil war brewing over there at MVP between their Valkyries, Leanna Cruz, one of several fighters who was taking shots at Alicia Baumgardner's recent performance against Benavidez. O'Shea Jones is the one kicked it off, but Tiara Brown and Leanna Cruz reacted to it. But Leanna's now taking a more direct approach, saying, imagine using your pussy and peds for 3-minute rounds and still can't get a stoppage and damn near running for your life in the middle of a fight. Shorty is a fucking clown. She's talking about Alicia Baumgardner. This was via Leanna Cruz's Instagram stories yesterday. But who is Leanna Cruz, as the boxing community at large will still be largely ignorant to this fighter, where she fights, and how she fights? Leanna sports an unblemished record of 11 wins with no losses and no draws, 1 recorded knockout. Fighter that we've talked about here on the channel on numerous occasions, best described as a firecracker with a lot of personality and a whole lot to say. At least about Alicia. Last in action in June of last year, opposite the ring, veteran Regina Chavez, who gave her all she could handle over 10 rounds, where Leanna eked out a points decision. One of 2 fights that she had that year. She fought once in January, then again in June, but suffered an injury in the Regina Chavez fight and had to sit out the remainder of the year. She has since been picked up by MVP and has yet to fight this year and yet to make her MVP debut, but she's making herself known, all before she even fights, under the promotional banner. Is it wise to make a powerful enemy like an Alicia Baumgardner, all before the boxing community at large even knows who you are, all before you've even accomplished anything? Is it wise to garner this potentially negative attention? And I think it all depends on how things go for Leanna Cruz, because if nothing else, this will get people talking, this will get people looking in her direction, asking, who is this broad?
The fuck's up problem?
Campaigning in the women's super flyweight division, Leanna Cruz is best described as a rather aggressive, athletic boxer-puncher, a mid-range to inside fighter with a penchant for action and theatricality. She does like to pull out all the stops for her fight kits. She seems to have an affinity for superheroes. Campaigning in the same weight where Jasmine Artiga holds the WBA, Adelaida Ruiz holds the WBC, Irma Garcia still holds the IBF, and of course this division's best, Mizuki Hiruta, holds the WBO and Ring Magazine titles. This is where Leanna Cruz fights and where she means to make a name for herself. So she doesn't actually fight anywhere near Alicia Baumgardner's division. Alicia, who she's been taking shots at, there's not much chance that the two ever meet in the ring. Leanna is far too small and a lot less experienced than Alicia Baumgardner in the paid ranks. And forget about the amateurs, because Leanna has no amateur experience. She's basically learning on the job. Now, where this rift between them could either be beneficial or detrimental all depends on how Leanna's career goes from here, because here is where people start paying attention. Here is where things get interesting. If you do good, or if you do bad. If you do good, then it's all good in the hood. Now being promoted by MVP, Leanna has a chance to fight on much bigger stages, on much bigger cards than she ever did in the past. That's obvious. But if things go sideways, and they might, if they go bad, there's gonna be that many more people watching. Alicia Baumgardner among them. Leanna Cruz campaigns in a very densely populated, talent-rich division, where it's not easy to win a belt. Everybody's got a belt is a good fucking fighter. Everybody. There are no vacant titles lying around. The champions are all good fighters. Many of the challengers are all good fighters, like Virginia Fuchs, who also campaigns at this weight. Shannon Ryan, Nicola Hopewell, Emma Doolin. There are a lot of good fighters in this division, enough that becoming a champion there is difficult enough, and staying a champion is even harder, as then it would be both the champions and the challengers all descending upon you, all coming after you, and Leanna's making powerful enemies all before she even gets to that point. I ain't nobody's watchdog here to gatekeep what one fighter says to another. If Leanna don't like Alicia, it's not written anywhere says that she has to. She doesn't. But because she doesn't, she's being vocal about it, it has a tangible effect that could either be beneficial or detrimental. One thing I know is, from here on out,
people are going to start paying attention.
Leanna's going to have to put her money where her mouth is if you've taken it upon yourself to criticize how Alicia Baumgardner performs.
All right then, hotshot. Why don't you get out there and show her how it's done?
The difference from this fight is that I'm not going to have to lose any weight. I'm actually going to have to be putting on weight, putting muscle. We got 10 weeks to do that, so I mean, I feel like I'm gonna be the best. You know, I'm not gonna have to lose weight at all. So it's just I don't know how that feels yet. You know, but I know it's gonna feel good. So I'm expecting the best version of myself that night.
Feel good. At least better than boiling down to 168, boiling down to 175, where I expect David Benavidez will not return. You see what he's saying?
Well, he also said that he's mastered the art of cutting weight, and he knows how to get back down to 175 safely. He said that.
Yeah, and he also said that he'd moved on from Canelo Alvarez just to mention him in every podcast and every interview he's had. He says a lot of things.
At some point, you gotta start using your own common sense. You'd think a guy who's putting on muscle to debut as a cruiserweight, if he wins there and becomes a unified champion there, is going to then boil back down to 175. A guy as big as David.
I swear to God, David's got to be walking around heavier than Dimitri Bivol, heavier than Artur Beterbiev. Why do you think he was in such a hurry to move up to cruiser? And why do you think I said he was going to do that?
I told you he wasn't going to be at light heavyweight very long. I told you a full 2 years before he announced the move to cruiser. He's gonna move up, he's gonna ditch Dimitri, he's gonna ditch Artur, he's gonna fight Zurdo.
His light heavyweight campaign would have lasted a grand total of 3 fights. Vazdik, Morel, and Yard. That's it.
That's all.
So believe me when I tell you, he's not moving back down to light heavyweight. What goes up, stays up.
At least with the men, they don't fluctuate in weight like the women do. They can't afford to. Shedding muscle comes at the expense of performance.
Staying at cruiser, saying that he's gonna feel good up there because he doesn't have to cut, which might be true.
The feeling good part.
Except that now he's finally gonna be fighting fighters that are closer to his weight, closer to his size, his natural size. You could argue that Zurdo Ramirez is actually bigger than David, based on the side-by-side pictures of them. He's certainly been at cruiserweight longer. He's got more time in that division than David, so it's going to be interesting to see how they perform once the opening bell sounds.
Zurdo, David recently won an interview and he talked about how you guys sparred 200 plus rounds. In the interview he said, fighters change, but not that much. What are your thoughts on his comments?
I mean, everyone changed. As a fighter, as a human, we change. And then it was a great performance for both of us a long time ago, but I think it be my best performance this time.
I would say that Zurdo has changed over time. He's got more wrinkles to his game now than when he sparred David Benavidez for 200 rounds or so, however many it was. Those sparring sessions are likely the reason that Team Benavidez are so confident they can now move up to cruiser
and become champions there.
But whatever insights David Benavidez gained from his old sparring sessions with Zurdo are also insights that Zurdo gained. It works both ways. And even if David got the better end of those sparring sessions, however many years ago it was, sparring sessions by themselves don't determine the outcome of fights. If they did, Philippe Pergovic would have beat Daniel Dubois.
In sparring he did.
But in a real fight, he's the one got beat up. In a real fight.
Zurdo Ramirez has changed over time because he, like David Benavidez, he used to be limited to pressure fighting. That's how he fought at 168 and 175, whereas at cruiser, he's shown more wrinkles to his game. Maybe it's because he has to.
You're fighting guys your own size now, buddy, and you can't win every fight through strength of arms, so he's using more ring craft, getting on his toes, using his lead, setting up traps, moving around. Under the watchful eye of Julian Chua and Malik Scotch. I can't remember who was training Zurdo before when he was at 68 and 75, but now he's trained by Julian Chua and Malik Scotch, both of which are making him more of a boxer.
David, man, based on your two styles, your two abilities as fighters, and the experience you had with him sparring, why do you believe you could be the first guy to knock him out? A big guy, a durable Mexican fighter in Zurdo Ramirez.
I mean, I said that the way I get a knockout is me putting the game plan in, executing the game plan. I have to really be on my P's and Q's in that. I give him the respect because he's a great fighter. He knows how to manage his distance. But like, this is just the type of fighter I am. You know, I'm satisfied with the decision, obviously. But for me, I want to go in there. I want to make a big impression. You know what I mean? It's just when you come from a knockout, a win, your last fight, you know, you kind of riding high on that. You know, I mean, that's how I feel right now. I want to keep that streak going, and I know I could hurt Zurdo. So it's just, that's really what I want to do. You know what I mean? And that's how I fight anyways. Every single fight, even if I don't say I'm going to try and knock the guy out, I fight like that. I try in there, I try and inflict as much damage as possible. So whether it happens or whether it doesn't happen, I don't know. But the game plan is me going in there and winning, what's the word called? Winning without a doubt in anybody's mind.
Is there any reason to believe that David Benavidez, who did not knock out Caleb Plant at 168 or Vosdick and Morel at 175, will now move up to a higher weight and knock out Zurdo, who's never been knocked out, and who is more durable than all of those aforementioned fighters?
More durable than some, more experienced than others, and more decorated than all three.
David couldn't knock out Caleb Plant, so now he's going to knock out Zurdo? How?
Stop the cap.
The only argument in favor of that happening would have to be that as a cruiserweight, David Benavidez will not be as depleted as he was at 168 and perhaps at 175.
He'll have more energy, more to bring to the fight. Since he won't go through a fat camp, he'll actually go through a fight camp.
No, I don't imagine that his strategy for Zurdo is going to be dramatically different to what he does the rest of the time. He's a pressure fighter, so when the bell rings, he's going to apply pressure.
That's what he's going to do. And Zurdo,
You know, he used to be a pressure fighter too. That's where this fight could become interesting. In the pocket, I think David Benavidez is faster to the punch. Strings punches together faster than Zurdo.
but Zurdo, having been a pressure fighter himself, has also shown ability to fight in the pocket. Not just in the pocket, outside of it, on the move. Those are the new wrinkles to his game.
Zurdo Ramirez has a lot of fights and a lot of rounds, but he never had the buzz that David Benavidez has now. No, they never came up with a cute little nickname for Zurdo like they did for David. The Mexican Monster?
Not actually born in Mexico, born in Arizona.
David's the one with the buzz, with the reputation. I believe that the bookies have David as the favorite, even though he's the one moving up, technically speaking, new to the weight.
He's the favorite.
I would be impressed if David knocked out Zurdo, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he does, and I don't even think it's a foregone conclusion that he wins. I'm picking him to win, and that's just me hedging my bets.
Because if he wins, then I was right again, but if he loses, I get to make fun of his fans.
For the pedestal that they've been putting him on, you should be able to at least make it past Zurdo Ramirez, who was already taken to school by Dimitri Bivol. Given the reputation they've given you, you should be able to punch this guy's lungs out.
Not labor, not languish, steamroller guy.
One of the major New York jewelry dealers. I was hanging out with him at this guy's house.
Yes.
Because this guy spends millions on jewelry. So this guy was there. Me and him got into a conversation. He said, Floyd Mayweather is broke. His spending has outpaced how much money he's making. So I talked about this on camera. I was like, oh, you're a hater. You're jealous of his money. You're broke compared to Floyd, blah, blah. Well, recently the IRS filed a $7.3 million tax lien.
That's when...
For unpaid taxes from 2018 to 2023. For 5 years, unpaid taxes.
When I saw that yesterday, I'm the same. I thought it was all BS for years until I saw the lien yesterday too, the 7.3 million.
Yeah.
I said, oh, this shit real.
This shit real.
It's what it took for a lot of people, seemingly outside of the boxing space, to be convinced that Floyd really is broke, he really is in dire financial straits, and that's the only reason he'd be coming back at close to 50 years old to give Manny Pacquiao a rematch.
What I consider one of the most underreported stories in the sport of boxing right now, deliberately underreported, because it would force the journos.
Anybody really who put Al Heyman on a pedestal, that they got it wrong.
Dead wrong.
People in the industry have their narratives and ulterior motives to cling to. Tomorrow, Nico Ali Walsh, Oscar De La Hoya, and I believe Mauricio Suleiman of the World Boxing Council are going to Washington to testify against the evils of the Ali Revival Act,
The dangers of UBOs, Unified Boxing Organizations.
on the premise that fighters are going to get taken advantage of, making no light of how Floyd was taken advantage of, without there being any changes to the Ali Act as it was. upon its inception.
Because the Ali Act is not all it's made out to be, and these guys, they have their ulterior motives to cling to.
Sean Zattel, who's no fan of Dana White's entry into the boxing space, I wonder how much time has he spent on his own channel talking about how Al Heyman took advantage of Floyd, since you want to take time out to ask Dana White the hard questions.
They're so worried about what's going to happen to the fighters and how the fighters are going to be treated. How much time have you spent talking about how Floyd was treated?
So if it feels like this story isn't being talked about enough within the boxing space, that would be why, because there are certain realities that certain people don't want to address. VLAD TV, however,
he exists outside of the boxing space, without all of its ulterior motives. No, VLAD TV's content falls under pop culture more than sport.
Not exclusive to it, pop culture encompasses a wider array of subjects that sometimes include sports, music, so on and so forth.
He's talking about it.
Years ago, it was actually 50 Cent talking about it, and people didn't want to listen. They thought he was just hating.
Like what Vlad said people said about him, what some people have said about me in all the years that I've covered the subject here on my channel.
What the fuck do I have to hate Floyd Mayweather for? He never did nothing to me. I'm just calling a spade a spade. Looks like the guy is broke.
Why are you getting defensive about it?
Why are you mad?
Is it because you don't want me to be right? All the things I've been saying for all these years about how it doesn't make sense for Al Heyman to still have access to Floyd's money?
That he's stealing from his own fighters, that's what he's doing. You're the guys who would have people believe that it's the evil Eddie Hearn or the evil Bob Arum.
The white devils that you have to watch out for.
Because let's not beat around the bush. We know exactly who those narratives have been coming from. This goes against that narrative, that no, it's not Bob you gotta worry about, or Eddie, or Frank.
But that's what you would have had people believe, and it's precisely that kind of thinking that sees Floyd Mayweather taken advantage of.
Out over $300 million of his own dollars that he earned.
Because he's got a similar mindset to you guys.
Bro man bullshit.
That it's us versus them. Bullshit. Con men come in all shapes and sizes, all shades. You don't think they come in yours.
That's why he was so easy to trick. So easy to take advantage of.
You guys are too. It's not hard to put a battery in your back. By now, the whole world knows what strings to pull. How to get you going, get you hot.
Yeah!
You need to change your thinking, lest you end up like Floyd Mayweather. Oh, I know, a few years ago, you would have wanted to end up like Floyd, just like him.
Not so much now, right?
You don't even want to talk about him now. How many guys used Floyd Mayweather's millions as a sort of personal point of pride that he's one of ours?
Living vicariously through him.
They spent enough time in street corners and barbershops and online chat rooms, boxing groups, and social media platforms, boasting about his millions that are now gone.
His pay-per-view sales.
That in the end don't seem to matter because he's just another broken down boxer, forced to fight. Oh, you don't want to talk about it? That's okay. VLAD TV's talking about it. I'm talking about it because somebody has to.